I want to welcome you to this, our third installment of what we're calling Dinner and Discourse. These evenings are an opportunity to gather around important conversations that shape our faith and our life together in the world. These events are sponsored by our Committee on Church and Society. We are a group at Clear Lake United Methodist Church committed to exploring how our faith intersects with social issues. The Committee on Church and Society is described in the United Methodist Book of Discipline. Its purpose is to educate and lead the congregation in advocating for peace and justice, guided by the social principles and the resolutions of the General Conference of the United Methodist Church. Our Committee on Church and Society helps followers of Jesus engage with racial reconciliation, justice, peace, creation care, and the common good through learning, advocacy, and service. I'm going to ask the members of the Committee on Church and Society to take a moment to stand and be recognized. I think most of them are standing back there in the kitchen, a few others here. If you are interested in more information about the Committee on Church and Society, I encourage you to talk to one of the pastors or one of these members, and they'll be happy to talk to you and tell you when the next meeting is. Also, I want to take a moment to thank Amy Trim, who is here doing a lot of work in the back to make sure this comes off. Chidi, who's right here taking pictures, and light and sound, all the other clergy and staff that are present. We deeply appreciate all of their great work. These things don't come off or happen without lots of people setting up tables, preparing rooms, cleaning things, getting things ready. Let's show our appreciation to the team. We are grateful you've chosen to be here this evening, and I hope tonight sparks meaningful reflection and dialogue. I also want to invite you back to our next Dinner and Discourse. It's going to be on October 5th. As you may know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we're going to have Melissa Prentice, the Outreach, Education, and Prevention Director from Bay Area Turning Point. She'll be with us to lead the discourse that evening. The discourse will be presented again both in English and Spanish. It's not really a dinner and discourse, but it might be something of interest, though, to people interested in church and society. Between now and then, on Sunday, September 21st, at the Multicultural Center at 4 p.m., I'll be part of a panel discussion on respect between religions. Somebody earlier questioned, Brad, are you giving the talk on Christianity or what part? They're supposed to send me questions in advance, and I have not received them yet. I'm sure it will be. If I have to give a talk on the other Abrahamic religions represented, it might be a short talk. So we're going to go with I'm giving the one on the Christian part. Additionally, tonight we are blessed to welcome one of our own, Angela Lawrence from Houston Community College. She'll be leading us through a practical workshop called Disaster Class, Prep Like a Pro. A little bit about Angela that I did not know, but I'm excited to learn. She is very involved in business strategy as a consultant and entrepreneur. She also is an advocate for workforce resilience. She has her MBA from Rice University. She's at HCC in Resilience Reimagined Initiative. Did I say that right? Resilience Reimagined Initiative. And her focus is primarily in strategy, technology, and community impact in those ways. So we're excited to have her here giving the presentation this evening. Before we begin, the committee thought it might be helpful for us to connect our discourse to the social principles of the United Methodist Church. These principles remind us that preparing for disasters is not just practical, but spiritual. It's about loving our neighbors and caring for God's creation. The social principles of the United Methodist Church talk about the natural world, and in them it declares, we affirm that all creation belongs to God and is a manifestation of God's goodness and providential care. And they caution us, we acknowledge that unsustainable human activities have placed the entirety of God's creation in peril. On environmental justice, John Wesley reminds us, love for God and neighbor extends to all creation. And so we commit ourselves to stand and work with communities that are disproportionately harmed by environmental neglect and destruction. The social community proclaims all persons are important because they are human beings created by God and loved through and by Jesus Christ. That includes the most vulnerable in times of crises, the elderly, the poor, the displaced, and the disabled. And in the section on the economic community we hear, as United Methodists, we profess that all we are and that all we possess belong to God. That means sharing resources and caring for each other, especially in times of distress or in natural disasters, are so essential all the way through recovery. And finally, in the political community section, it affirms we support structures in the church and in civil society that honor the basic freedoms and rights of all human beings and protect God's creation. These principles together call us to live as a people of preparedness, compassion, and resilience. When we prepare, we not only care for ourselves, but also ensure that our neighbors, especially the most vulnerable, are not left behind. So it's a great joy and appropriately before us as we deepen our understanding of the social principles to have some resilience training and learn how to prep like a pro. So thanks, Angela. Let's welcome her.
Thank you for that welcome and intro, Brad.
You need to talk louder, we can hear you.
Is it? Okay, can y'all hear me now?
Yeah.
Thank you for that intro and welcome. And let me get this connected so y'all can see the PowerPoint. So how many of y'all have been through any kind of disaster here in the last 5 years in Houston? Okay. Out of that disaster, was it mostly hurricanes? Yeah. Ice storms, right? So we're adding to the list because usually Houston, this area is known for hurricanes. So, given a scale of 1 to 10, how prepared are y'all on a daily basis to take on another hurricane? 5, 3, 6. Okay. So if it shows up at like 2 days from now, do y'all have everything you need in the house? No, right?
No.
So we're going to go over that, and the purpose of this workshop is to basically empower the community, empower you to go ahead and plan as individuals, as communities, as groups, to go out into your neighborhoods and build resilient communities that tackle hazards, minimizing risk, and then creating safer, stronger communities for everyone. I like walking when I'm talking, so some of the learning objectives that we have is how to plan for natural disasters, how do we prepare for them, and how do we advocate for them. And so part of that is the reason why I asked you if a disaster shows up, a day or two from now, are you prepared? Well, according to research, 90% of Houstonians are not prepared for any kind of disaster. Majority of them think, yeah, I've been through a hurricane, I know what it's about, I'm ready, I'm prepared. We've had freezes, it's okay, we're gonna just wait it out, right? So that's kind of, once you've gone through something, you just have that feeling, so not necessarily are you actually prepared to take on that disaster. So we are here to help you overcome that. and we're going to help you prepare for emergencies for everyone within your house, your family, your community, and not wait until it's too late. So a resilient community, what it takes is you invest and plan ahead. So one of the things, what is one of the things that y'all experience when you plan something versus something that's unplanned?
It goes better.
It goes better, right? And the first thing most people tend to do if something is unplanned is panic. And whenever you panic, nothing goes according to plan, even if you had a plan. So to help prepare you for that, it's always planning ahead. Make sure you have a plan. Share risk information with everyone, knowing which area you live in. There's some areas that are more susceptible to hurricanes and floods and things like that, especially if you're near the water, like Nassau Bay, Galveston, different areas, not generally like the city, but specific areas that you live in. And then being able to share that information with friends and family, like, hey, I live over here in this area, I'm just more vulnerable to having water events. Things like that. Then building strong partnerships in public and private groups, such as public would be like things when the corporations come out, like HEB comes out usually and helps with disasters. Private would be something like this, where you have your church or your community center, or groups that you're involved in that you work with. And then being able to quickly return to normal after disaster is something that is always a goal. But as most of us have been through Harvey, we saw that, years later, you still saw the blue tarps on the roofs and everything, and that doesn't go according to plan. And a lot of times it has to do with something other than being able to prepare for disasters. So some of the things impacting Houston, so we've added to our list in the recent years. And I don't know if any of y'all have noticed, but our weather events have become stronger, and they come a lot quicker, and they're a lot larger than they used to be. So we have added, in addition to hurricanes, we have a lot of flash flooding now. It's almost every time it rains, like the last couple of weeks. A reason for that is, according to city planning, this concrete in itself is supposed to absorb the water and become sort of like a way to dissipate the water. But the problem is, if they plan for 6 inches and it rains 12, it's not going to take all of that, so you have standing water, and you'll have more of a risk of flash floods. We have tornadoes. I don't know how many of y'all remember the tornadoes in Pasadena a couple years ago? Yeah, that was crazy. I went and helped with the recovery after that, and what was the most insane part to me about that was, like, one house was here completely untouched. The house next was completely destroyed, and it just kind of picked and chose whichever area it wanted to go to. So tornadoes are now another reality we didn't have to think about before, but they're there. Power outages.
Hurricane Barrel.
Every time it rains, your lights start flickering because we just have a lot of immense just resources and loads on the power grid, especially with technology and AI that's happening. We're using more and more of that power, but we're not able to sustain the power that we need out of the current grid system that we have. Extreme heat events. Those are like every summer in Texas. So we always have heat events, and then they usually during that time open up cooling centers. They tell you to stay indoors or hydrate or keep cool just to help you. And then the opposite of that is we have freezing events when we turn our cooling centers into heat centers because it's too cold. And so it's just our extreme weather has gone up over the last few years than what we're used to. So being able to plan through disaster recovery, so it's just creating a plan, and that plan can include starting within your household. You can create a plan within the house, and then you go out from your house to your community, to letting your friends and family know if they're in different parts of town. If I'm here in Houston, I know someone who lives in the Woodlands, and I'm hit with an emergency, like a weather event, I can always go over there. And the other thing is you kind of zoom out. So if you know then someone outside of Texas, you go over there. And then you can, that way you have a landing spot no matter what. And being able to plan that is always helpful. It also helps with anxiety that comes up, so you already know what you're doing. Then being able to integrate those into policies and implement actions, that usually partakes within community who is helping. It also includes the leaders that are responsible for the policies that they're creating. And then self-advocacy. If we need something, we go out to the church, we say, hey, let's help everyone during Harvey. Tornadoes. If you go to your local representatives, you can also ask for funding. So just going out, again, zooming out from where you can start versus where you can get help. So some of the things in planning is building on existing data. So what do we have? So the first thing you would look at is, am I in a hurricane? Am I in a flash flood? Is there a fire, tornado, whatever it is? Second thing is involve the public. So now you're outside, you're in your community. So oftentimes during disasters, the people that you are there is either your friends and family or community that you're in, because emergency services, according to HPD, take an average time of 1.5 to 2 hours to come to you if you're on the outskirts of Houston for a regular emergency. So you can multiply that during a disaster. It's probably going to be, if anything, you'll be lucky to get help during that day, but it might be a couple of days before you get help. So being able to help each other out within your community becomes just a lifeline for that. Then identifying problems. A lot of times you have live wires, so make sure you're wearing not wearing steel-toe boots, so you don't want to do that. Just being aware of nails, things like that, just dangerous things that you can identify immediately and then make everyone else aware when they're helping you. A lot of times, I don't know if you'll look at once a hurricane hits, you always hear about people helping their neighbor and a tree fell, a branch or whatever. We're not careful because we're not looking and identifying what could go wrong. Then proposing solutions, like you can set up teams. One person is in charge of cleaning up this area. You're working with a group. So always teamwork works really well instead of one person trying to do everything, to help kind of elevate some of what you're going through and helping with that. And then adopting the plan. You can pass it on to another community, another group that you may know, hey, this is what we did, this is what worked, this is what didn't. Feel free to use it, replicate it, however you'd like. Then implementing and monitoring, just having that plan go through, and then evaluating, updating. Again, what's the feedback? What did we do well? How can we do better for the next one? So facilitating it, so joining in every step of planning. So one of the things I always recommend is whether you're at work, whether you're with your family, always create emergency forms of communication. It could be something through Messenger, it could be something through WhatsApp, any kind of texting that does not necessarily require, you can base it off of two things. So one, you're using mobile data, right? So sometimes cell phone towers go down and you can't use that anymore. So if you have internet, being able to do that, well, what if they both go out? What's another way of communicating that doesn't require both of those things?
Smoke signal.
Smoke signals? Yeah,
Where are you going to meet?
Radio.
Yeah. So pre-planning and radio, those are very, that's exactly what we recommend. So having radio out and then pre-planning, like, hey, if I'm trying to reach out and this happens, where are we going to meet? And oftentimes that could be a spot within your neighborhood. It could be somewhere close by that is walkable and accessible that you can meet in case you cannot communicate with each other. And so then finding ways to work with your local groups and doing that, and making sure that the public also has a chance to be involved in being able to help you. So if you are living in a neighborhood, something happens, all communication goes down, you all can meet in like the local neighborhood park or pool or whatever it is. Then in preparation, so then we look at what the risk is and the chance of harm or loss that occurred. A lot of times, you can, as you can see in the pictures, like you have flooding, you have different events where you have, so you're just assessing what it is, so which location it had the most damage. How much construction is it going to require to rebuild all of that? And then the site design, do I really want to build something again that's going to flood, or I'm going to change it up a little bit, maybe put it on stilts and not have that issue? And then looking at infrastructure in general around in that area. So the 4 steps to risk assessment, the first one is identifying the disaster. Which disaster am I dealing with? Is it a tornado? Is it a fire? Is it a hurricane, freeze, whatever it is? And then preparing and protecting yourself and others for that. And then analyzing the risks. So I live in a place where I'm in hurricane season, so I'm going to probably see 3 to 5 hurricanes during this season, right? So how do I plan for that? And then summarizing the vulnerability. So vulnerability in the sense of where you're living, but also of those who are around you. because a lot of times with the Texas Hill County floods that happened, there were a lot of people who weren't able to get out because they were vulnerable. They were unable to do so. So identifying the vulnerable within our communities, children, elders, anyone with disabilities, are they able to get out? If not, what is the plan that I can get them safely out of this situation and everyone gets out together? Then here's a thinking point. So in what ways are structures and infrastructures in your community susceptible to damage from natural disasters or hazards?
Most of it's like wood,
Yeah, what?
yeah, and then so, you know, when it's a tornado, it's gonna take it down
Yeah.
pretty fast.
Other things I usually think of is like whenever we have storms, you usually have loose things in your front yard, backyard, like plants, you know, or small objects. Those can become dangerous really quickly when the winds pick up, and they can just throw them around, and before you know it, your window is being broken by that because the wind picked up. So it's just things like everyday objects that you don't think about can become dangerous really quickly just because of their size and the fact that they're not weighed down. And making sure everything is that you can, you know, board up, cover up, those things, because a lot of times glass and stuff like that can become a shrapnel. So we are looking at the step-by-step household readiness plan. So the first one, like we discussed, was creating a family communication plan, having some form of communication during that time. One of the things I like recommending during that is you appoint people what their role is in that group. So one person could be in charge of updating everyone on the news. Another person could be in charge of the traffic. Another person could be in charge of the weather. That way everyone has a purpose in that group and they know what they're doing. And so it's not everyone trying to throw all their ideas at the same time and it's chaos. You're planned even when you're in the group. Then knowing evacuation routes and meeting points, like we talked about earlier, that's very important as well. Like in the event of a hurricane, it would be different than it would be a tornado. So just different weather events would require different points. And then storing important documents in a waterproof container. I also suggest making copies of that. So anytime you are in a disaster and you aren't able to get somewhere, you still have a copy of what you have. Nowadays, you can also scan it, put it on your phone, and have a file with you. So that way, if you're missing something, if you're displaced for any reason during a weather event, you always have those on you. And then assigning emergency roles to family members. So in addition to the group messaging, the other thing I like to say, especially getting the younger kids involved, is okay, you go and you charge all the devices in the house. Find whatever you can, charge a laptop, phone, tablet, including power banks. That's something simple kids can do, but they also learn from that of what to do and how they can contribute to that. You can also make sure you have enough food, like canned food for a couple of years. There are a lot of emergency food kits that you can have. Do what? Oh yeah, years. So there is a food pantry I toured, I think two weeks ago. It is up near, I believe it was Cypress area, and they ended up doing, so they have like canned food and they make it economical because it's through a church. They have their own food pantry and everything, and their least amount of food that it lasted was 2 years, and then the most was 30 years. Is shelf stable, and so you can store that, and they're the big family packs, and you can keep things like that. In addition to that, if you go to the store, a lot of canned foods do last years, not just 6 months from now. And there's shelf stable milk that you can have, and so you don't need refrigeration for that. It stays out. It lasts a lot longer than your milk in the refrigerator. So just looking into things like that and keeping those stored is helpful. And then in terms of emergency roles, like again, someone can charge all the devices, the other person can go and grab the flashlights, matches, whatever you need. Just simple things like that to get everyone involved in thinking about emergency. So we're talking about food. So one of the things we recommend is having food and water for every person in your household for at least 3 days. That will help you in case a disaster comes to be able to plan for enough days, and then by that time Hopefully you will be able to get the help that you need because your community has been impacted. Then having first aid kits, hygiene items and medications are very important, and being able to have flashlight, batteries, radios, any other emergency things you may need. And then baby supplies, pet food, clothing and carriers for your pets or babies. And then having fire extinguishers. So I know a lot of times fire extinguishers are really hard for people to use because they have the little ones that they sell for the house, but they also have the newer ones that you like push down. And it's more of like a spray. It kind of goes everywhere, so they have those that you can get as well. They're a little bit easier to maneuver than your basic fire extinguisher. And then having maps when you can't get access to the internet. You still need to get somewhere. So being able to go old school and have that map on you. And then, like I said, important documents, copies of those documents, and then cash and change. That, yeah, I don't have that. I need that because I use my phone for payment. And just having cash and change. I know the last time there was, I think I was helping with another disaster relief early last year, and the store that was closest, so we didn't have bug spray. Also keep bug spray. That's very important, especially when there's water involved, because mosquitoes are out there. But one of the stores, it was open, it was operating, but they had a sign that their internet was down and people could only buy if they had cash. I didn't have cash. But that is important because a lot of times when all else fails, you need to have cash to be able to purchase what you need. And this is like a little section of how to help our youth get ready, especially just, like I said, getting kids involved in what they're doing. So being able to call 911 when they call 911. Is it an emergency or is it that you think it's an emergency? That's an important distinguisher because last week there was a report, a little 7-year-old called 911 because mom and dad didn't give him pizza, so he wanted pizza. Not an emergency. That's something he thought was an emergency. So teaching them when to call 911 is important. And then remembering their own address. If they're calling 911, oftentimes getting them the names of all of the members in the household and their address so they can get help if everyone else in the house is unable to get them help. And then helping them build an emergency kit. Just have them do like a first aid kit, you know, put alcohol, Band-Aids, antibiotics, allergy medicines, just so they're learning about it as well. And then practice what to do in different disaster scenarios. I know I haven't done this, but they used to teach about like the stop, drop, and roll, and then like what to do during tornadoes, like get in your desk and different things to do in different emergencies like that. I'm unsure if schools still do that or practice it, but they used to, and they're important, so you can teach them at home on what to do for that. And then encourage responsibility for siblings or elders. You know, just everyone's part of the same boat. You're not leaving. You need to be able to contribute and help out in case something happens. Then the advocacy. So one of the things I do recommend is advocating for yourself. At the end of the day, you have to think of no one else is coming. If no one else is coming, how can I help myself? How can I help everyone else? It's the same concept. When you're on a plane, they tell you have to put your oxygen mask on first before you can help anyone else. So you need to make sure you're prepared, you have the resources, so you can go out and help everyone else so that they're prepared. So one of the things to do that, signing up for Houston Alert, is so you can go on your phone and I'll text you any emergency alert systems. That is through City of Houston. A lot of times during disasters, there isn't a lot of access to TVs or things where you can just sit down and look at the news. So alerts are usually how the local cities and municipalities function. They will send you quick updates through their social media, or if you sign up for their alerts, they can do that for you. You can call 311 and then get information from them. But you get really quick updates. You're not looking for news reports. You're just looking to how you can get into a safer place. Sharing emergency contacts with your family. So if you are not with your family, you're living in a different part of town, different state, wherever, sharing the emergency contacts you have where you are locally with your family members in case something happens to you is important as well. And then using text and social media for updates. And then participating in your local CERT program. So CERT program is Certified Emergency Response Teams. There is one in Galveston, there's one in Pasadena, there's one in Houston, there's probably one in Clear Lake. You just go on the website, you type it in, and they certify everyday citizens on how you can be part of the voluntary response team that goes out first when disasters happen. Then in conclusion, I have some of these resources. You can feel free to take pictures. If y'all want me to send you the PowerPoint or additional resources, I can do that later as well. So always check online or call 211 United Way. So they provide different things like rent, utilities, long-term recovery. 311, again, if you need quick answers, any updates, you can always call them. American Red Cross, their number's up there. Then we have Memorial Assistance Ministries. They give you vouchers and aids. Their phone number's right there. Houston Food Bank, we have 2 locations. We also have local food banks that you can reach out to, Catholic Charities, and then the Texas Division of Emergency Management. So they have several different ones. This is a state one. They're also divided up by different cities. So there's like a Houston, Dickinson, Pasadena, all of that. And then these are some local government resources. So you have HoustonTexas.gov, and then you have Houston OEM, which is the Houston chapter of the Emergency Management. Then you have the TGCR VOAD, which is the volunteering group. So they are we have a chapter here, and they have chapters all over Texas where they go out and they're voluntary groups. So what they do is they go ahead and provide assistance to volunteers as well. So you have groups that are volunteering, and then they're volunteer relief groups because you need relief as well. So you're going there and volunteering, and they also provide you relief. So you only do a certain amount of shifts because they also then provide you things for your mental illness or mental health, because a lot of times when you are going out there and helping, you're seeing a lot of things, you're overwhelmed, you're dealing with a lot, so you also need to process those things. Then Public Health, Harris County also does the same thing. Then we have HoustonHealth.org, they have preparedness plans. Then there's ReadyGov, they also have it's called Cell Phone Sally, it's for the little kids. And so it teaches them how to call 911, which one's a fire truck versus a police car, or different things like that to get them to identify and connect with emergency services. And then the Houston Cert is also at the bottom where you can go and check out the certification. And then these are some independent resources for weather. Just because we have seen a lot of budget cuts and things that are happening, independent resources are good resources. I know we are down here and we have Space City Weather, which is very reliable, it's local, it's independent. They tell you about it. We haven't been doing Doppler reporting on hurricanes. I think it's been about a month and we are in hurricane season. So through NOAA, they aren't reporting that. They are reporting hurricanes, so the information is being limited. So these provide you more. And of course, you can always go on your phone and see where you're getting the weather from. I always suggest, just like in research, you have to double check your facts. So I always look at a couple of different weather reports to make sure it is accurate and I know what's happening with big events like that. Then these are some of the resources that were used for making this PowerPoint. And then these are some, again, this, I can send it to Brad and then he can pass it on if you'd like. But these are just, Click to Houston made a list of which resources for the counties in Houston that you can go and contact for calling. Social services, first aid kit, and then some emergency management. So we also have additional for that, and like I was saying, Ready Harris, ReadyGov, STEER's one of the ones that's out there, Texas Voluntary Organization. And then, so why are we doing this? We're doing this to protect your nonprofits, such as this church, places of worship, communities, or businesses to be able to create a continuity plan so they can also implement it in case of a disaster of how they can help you, and you can do it to see how you can help them, and then we can have a bigger impact by working together. Being able to do that for businesses, they can back up important data. Your workplace can do the same, train staff on safety and communication, connect with emergency responders, which one's the closest location to you, create family organization plans, and improve safety and communication. So that is what I have. Do y'all have any
Well,
questions?
the questions will be done specifically.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
And thank you.